Ukraine's anti-corruption chief fights back. NABU under siege. In a recent interview with Reuters, Semen Kryvonos, the director of the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, revealed that his agency is facing a dirty information campaign aimed at undermining their work. This revelation comes despite an unexpected U-turn by President Volodymyr Zelensky on curbing the independence of anti-graft agencies, a move that had sparked rare wartime protests. Kryvonos expressed his surprise at the attempts to limit his agency's fight against corruption, but refrained from naming those who might be behind the controversial measures. He described the situation as a shock and a demand to destroy the agency. The day after Zelensky sought to ease tensions by submitting legislation to restore the independence of NABU and its sister agency, the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, thousands of protesters took to the streets in Kyiv and other Ukrainian cities. The protests were a response to lawmakers fast-tracking a bill that granted a Zelensky-appointed general prosecutor power over the two bodies, a move that also threatened Kyiv's ties with the European Union and Western donors. Kryvonos welcomed Zelenskyy's reversal, but warned that NABU and SAPO remain targets for vested interests aiming to hinder their efforts to clean up corruption. He expressed concern that corrupt actors will intensify a dirty information campaign against NABU on widely read anonymous Telegram channels, portraying the agency as ineffective. Since Russia's invasion in February 2022, Ukraine has intensified its campaign to eradicate the pervasive corruption that has long plagued its political culture. Stamping out corruption is crucial to Kyiv's bid to join the EU and its efforts to erase a legacy of autocracy and Russian rule. NABU and SAPO, launched with Western support after a 2014 revolution toppled a pro-Russian president, have brought charges against lawmakers and senior government officials. In recent months, Kryvonos' agency has uncovered huge real estate schemes in the capital Kyiv and accused a then-deputy prime minister of taking a $345,000 kickback. Kryvonos suggested that such efforts had led to a sweeping crackdown this week that paved the way for the rollback of NABU's and SAPO's powers. 2 NABU officials were arrested for suspected ties to Russia, and nearly 20 other agency employees searched over lesser alleged infractions in a campaign critics said went too far. Despite winning a hard-fought victory this week, Kryvonos said resistance was still widespread enough across the political landscape to pose a serious challenge. He cited the controversial law that had been supported by most of Zelenskyy's political party, as well as opposition lawmakers and those associated with former pro-Russian factions. Political elites, Kryvonos said, need to stop considering us as enemies and accept us as an important part of state institutions. This is a complex issue and one that is likely to spark differing opinions. On one hand, the fight against corruption is a crucial part of Ukraine's bid to join the EU and its efforts to erase a legacy of autocracy and Russian rule. On the other hand, the attempts to curb the independence of anti-graft agencies have caused protests and threatened Kyiv's ties with the EU and Western donors. What do you think? Should anti-graft agencies be allowed to operate independently, or should they be subject to government oversight? Zelensky's new bill, a response to Ukraine's anti-corruption protests, in a bold move that has captured the attention of both domestic and international audiences. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has introduced a new draft bill aimed at addressing the significant backlash following a controversial law that many critics argue undermines the integrity of the nation's anti-corruption agencies. This comes in the wake of widespread protests and mounting pressure from various quarters, including European allies, who are concerned about the implications of the previous legislation. The newly proposed bill, submitted to the Ukrainian parliament, seeks to rectify the discontent stemming from a law enacted just days earlier. Critics have voiced strong concerns that this earlier law could facilitate corruption by diminishing the autonomy of key anti-corruption bodies. In response to the uproar, anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine welcomed the introduction of the new bill, expressing optimism that it would restore their procedural powers and ensure their independence. Zelensky has faced significant challenges, including protests from citizens who took to the streets of Kyiv and other major cities, defying martial law that has been in effect since the onset of Russia's invasion. The controversial law had placed the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine, NABU, and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office, SAPO, under the direct control of the Prosecutor General, a position appointed by the president himself. This move raised alarms about potential political interference and the erosion of these agencies' independence. Initially, Zelensky defended the law, claiming it was a necessary measure to combat alleged Russian influence within these agencies. However, critics pointed out that the law did not adequately address the presence of Kremlin-affiliated operatives and instead opened the door for political meddling. As protests erupted, European officials expressed their concerns, emphasizing that tackling corruption is crucial for Ukraine's aspirations for European Union membership and for securing ongoing international aid to counter Russian aggression. In the light of this pressure, Zelensky has retreated from his earlier stance, promising to introduce new legislation that would guarantee the independence of anti-corruption institutions and eliminate any Russian influence. In a further twist, opposition lawmakers have also been working on their own proposals to repeal the contentious law. Yaroslav Zelensky, a member of the opposition Holos Party, criticized Zelensky's administration, suggesting that they were merely pretending to solve the problems they had created. Before unveiling the new draft bill, Zelensky engaged in discussions with leaders from Germany and the United Kingdom. His office reported that British Prime Minister Keir Starmer had offered to involve experts to foster long-term cooperation on this pressing issue. Zelensky also reached out to Friedrich Merz, inviting him to participate in the expert review of the bill, to which Merz expressed his willingness to assist. As of now, it remains uncertain when the Verkhovna Rada, Ukraine's parliament, will cast its vote on the proposed legislation. This situation raises important questions about the future of anti-corruption efforts in Ukraine and the balance of power within its governmental institutions. What do you think about the implications of these developments? Are they a step forward or merely a temporary fix? Share your thoughts in the comments. Zelensky's strategic blunder, analyzing Ukraine's future. In a surprising turn of events, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has introduced a legislative measure that seems to backtrack on previous reforms, potentially jeopardizing Ukraine's hard-won progress against corruption. This move could also risk the essential support Ukraine has been receiving from Western allies. Just when you think the path forward is clear, here comes a twist that could change everything. But here's where it gets controversial. Could this apparent misstep be a deeper strategic play, or is it a genuine error in judgment? Let's dive deeper into the implications of this decision. On July 23, 2025, a new piece of legislation was introduced that appears to undermine the strides Ukraine has made in its fight against corruption. This development was promptly updated in an editorial note the following day, reflecting the rapid response to unfolding events. This legislative change has sparked a flurry of discussions among policymakers and analysts worldwide. It raises critical questions about the balance between immediate political needs and long-term national interests. And this is the part most people miss. The delicate interplay between domestic policies and international diplomacy can often lead to unexpected outcomes. Could this decision be a strategic blunder or a calculated risk? This situation serves as a stark reminder of the complexities involved in governance, especially in a country at the forefront of geopolitical tensions. As we continue to observe Ukraine's trajectory, one must wonder, what will be the long-term consequences of this legislative change for Ukraine's relationship with its allies? What do you think? Was this move a misstep, or is there more to it than meets the eye? Share your thoughts and join the discussion below.